You're watching Newsview with Lee Sullivan.
Welcome back. It's Newsview, visiting with Ron Hart, syndicated columnist, and talking about a variety of things. And let me turn it to Dick Cheney, former vice president, taking up more attention, more oxygen in the room right now, I believe, than when he was vice president.
I'm glad to see him fight back. I think he's on the right issue here. If our intelligence community is compromised by being sued or dragged before a grand jury 4 years after they interrogate someone, blowing smoke in somebody's face, telling them there's a bug in the room. I mean, these people killed 3,000 people at 9/11. I mean, what sort of country have we become? And to see Obama politicize that is very disheartening. I mean, it's just really sad. It shows they don't have much other than blame Bush, and that's wearing thin. And Cheney's fighting back. God bless her.
How long does the blame Bush bag hold garbage? I mean, how long?
Well, I hope it's a while, because in my upcoming book, I have a cartoon where Obama's sitting there smiling and Axelrod's beside him and Rahm Emanuel's beside him, and he goes, "So what you're telling me, I can continue to blame Bush for all this? How much longer can I blame Bush?" I mean, and people are starting to tire of it. You know, he's got a pony up. He's been there a long time. And you know, this deficit, how do you miss a deficit by $2 trillion? How do you miss it by $2 trillion? It's scary. And now they want us to trust him with health care. I mean, it's lunacy. I think the bloom's off the rose. You mentioned the Rasmussen reports, the polling data. They said the other day that 57% of the voters want the whole Congress kicked out in
yes,
whole.
Sir.
And yeah, but the problem there is everybody reelects their local congressman, and they said, well, we want Congress in total or bad. Well, kind of like our guy. We saw him downtown. He came to see the house. I mean, he's a nice guy. He shook my hand. So they vote their person back in to gerrymander districts. You see some of these districts. So they perpetuate themselves, and so it's a stupid game.
We're co-conspirators, Mr. Hart. We elect people that we want them to bring home the bacon.
Right.
Now, we complain about the hog getting slaughtered,
Right.
Okay, and we complain about the pieces and parts of the pig that go elsewhere, but we don't complain about the pieces and parts of the pig that come home.
Yeah, everybody wants to get their own. That's where you have to hand it to Jeff Flake and Ron Paul and others that refuse earmarks. It's symbolic. It is a small fraction of the deficit in the budget, but still, it's symbolic. And the way Pelosi and Reid, when they need the emissions bill, the cap and trade bill done, they give a fish museum to the guy in Ohio at 3 in the morning to pay him off. They're just using our money to pay people off. That's all government has become, is using an increasing deficit to pay people off to garner power. That's what the Democrats are about, and sadly, to some degree, that's what the Republicans became.
You know, are the Republicans being successful in backing away from some of that?
Spending, or just
getting back to being fiscally conservative?
They're part and parcel, the ones left in D.C. of the old Bush administration. Not too many were thrown out, so they're getting their own up there now. But they've got to get a coherent strategy to win. You can't just let the other group fail. You've got to have an alternative, like they did in '94 with the contract with America. So they need to get their act together, and some of their leaders, Mark Sanford, and I thought Sanford had a good chance. I like this Puente guy up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He's a very sharp governor, speaks in reasoned tones. He seems like he's a fiscal conservative. Perry, perhaps, in Texas, may be the way to go. The problem is the Republicans don't have a bench. It's been depleted over the years. There's no rising stars. And when there is a rising star, late-night comedians, the liberal media, rip them apart, like they did Sarah Palin. Now, Sarah Palin's not my choice. But if you rear your head as the next Republican possibility, look at the jokes on TV of Mark Sanford versus John Edwards. 10-1. Media Research Center said 10-1. Edwards gets pregnant a woman, and his wife has. This is more egregious. Well, I'm not saying that they're not both egregious.
The other.
Yeah, but because it was Mark Sanford, and he was the governor. This is a national presidential candidate. You got. It's like the coverage that the Ted Kennedy funeral is getting right now. Jesse Helms didn't. I mean, these guys didn't get. Strom Thurmond didn't get that. I mean, these are long-standing senators who have been there as long as he had, and this is like this is almost like Elvis died. I mean,
royalty.
Yeah, exactly.
Ron Hart. We'll be right back.
You're watching Newsview with Lee Sullivan.
Welcome back. Newsview, visiting with Ron Hart, syndicated columnist, talking about a variety of things. We've been talking about politics, Republican, Democrat Party, and Mr. Hart says the Republican bench is a little depleted. That's being, I believe, being kind. But Mitt Romney was the guy that I focused on, and so is he still got a pulse in this thing?
He's clearly probably the front runner in all the polls that you see today. What happened to Mitt, and I like Mitt a lot. I spent time with him at the Republican convention. He's a bright guy, self-made money, as you mentioned. Seems like he's a go-getter, moderate. He's not a zealot, it seems like. But he was devoured in the Republican primaries, which were dominated by the religious right, and I don't think they fully understood being a Mormon, what the religion was about. It seems odd. Yeah. At the end of the day, all religions seem odd if you take some of the things that people do with religion, but his seemed particularly egregiously odd to the religious right, who tend to be a little bit intolerant of any religious views other than their own. So I think he had a hard time getting out of the primaries. He would have been a more viable candidate and a more vivacious candidate than John McCain. I like Mitt a lot. He's a very bright guy. He made one mistake, saying he hunted more than he actually did. During the campaign, as you remember, he'd only hunted twice. So it turns out that Rudy Giuliani had more wives than Mitt Romney had hunted. But I like Mitt. I hope he comes up. You need 4 or 5 viable people to make a good dialogue and debate and see what the party's all about. I'm not sure what it's all about.
So Rudy, he seems to be semi-focused on the governor of New York.
He'll run there. Yeah, Patterson's in trouble, which he calls racism, and Duvall's in trouble in Massachusetts as well. And so the Obama people that have followed Obama, their poll numbers are way down, which is good. I think America liked the idea of Obama, a very mannerly, polite, stylish guy who seemed like he was going to be a mild leader who would not be ideology, because he'd done nothing in the Senate. And I've been wrong about this. I thought he'd be a do-nothing president. He'd done nothing his whole career. Never hardly sponsored a bill, never took on any controversial issues. He's governed like Stalin. I mean, he's been unbelievable to the left. To my, I'm happy with it because it'll get him kicked out. He has been steered to the left by either some poor advisors or some very strong ideologues.
Reed's another one that seems to be.
Reed's losing in Nevada, and he's a nut job. I mean, someone asked me one time, how did we get Pelosi and how did we get Reed in there? You have to understand, 6 years ago, the Democrats were in the woods, and they were just a joke. The Republicans were dominating till Bush blew it. And these were the weirdest, quackiest ones who would step up and take charge of this loony bin called the Democrat Party. They were all left-wing, Maxine Waters, and you had that Waxman. You have all these oddballs in the Democrat Party back then. They were out of power, and then Pelosi, his face looks like a Picasso, he steps up, I'll take charge, and they're all just hacks. Reed's a hack. He's not even an ideologue, I don't think. He's just a kind of political hack. And people don't like him. The more you know, the less you like. And I think they're going to go down. There'll be a big midterm election where the Republicans should gain seats. If he doesn't ram health care through between now and then, we should be okay.
Ron Hart, those are my views. What are yours?